Hello and welcome to the Somerset News Network. Still keeping out the way of the dog clippers. It's getting to the stage that I'm going to have it done. It's like going to the dentist, isn't it? You know at some stage that you got to do it and you got to work yourself up to it. Anyway, how many of you got bad hair days? And how are you managing to keep your barnet tidy? Put a comment below. Anyway, serious now. Let's get back to more pressing matters. COVID-19. Its original name was SARS-CoV, big C, little o, V, 2, because it's a mutation of the SARS virus. Now, the SARS virus is linked to the MERS virus. And somewhere along the lines, it's even linked to HIV. Exactly how, I'm not sure. But looking at a scientific paper, it originates from a bat virus. So we got hold, or man got hold of the bat virus, mutated it into MERS and SARS. Now the question is, and I don't know the answer, was COVID-19, which is SARS-CoV-2, is that a mutation naturally, which they're trying to promote by saying it's come from wet markets in China? Wet markets, I thought, were fish. So, you know, they sell dead animals as well. They sell dead bats and dogs and all sorts of things, which we don't like to eat and which we sort of turn our nose up at. But is it man-made or is it natural? I believe that it's man-made, and I'll explain why. We know the virus started in Wuhan, in China. 10 million people in Wuhan, in China. You know, it's as big as London, if not bigger. So, in Wuhan, the information that I found out is that there is a World Health Organization bioweapons lab looking at vaccines for bioweapons. And one of the bioweapons that they're looking at is SARS-CoV-2. SARS-CoV-2 is COVID-19. Quick sip. Now, if this laboratory is looking at the virus, how did they get hold of it? There's mixed reports. Some reports say that the Chinese stole it off the Americans. Reports coming out now from reliable sources says that the Americans were working on SARS-CoV-2, which is COVID-19, and that the American government pulled the funding on it. So the doctor who's in charge took it to Wuhan and gave it to the Chinese to work on. Now the Chinese say that the Americans have patented it. But other sources say that this Wuhan laboratory, which is very interesting, is run by Wumex. I think that's how you pronounce it. W-U-X-I. Now, is that company, who is, by the way, funded by Soros? You can't make this stuff up. This is gold. Now, is that company got hold of the virus from America. Americans are now paying for it to be researched. Now the question is, the rumor was that they test these viruses on animals. And the animals were supposed to be incinerated. But the staff in the laboratory, instead of incinerating the animals, took them down to the markets and sold them. Is it possible that the animals had the virus when they got out, and the procedures that were supposed to be in place to make sure the animals were incinerated was not carried out? That's one theory. The other theory is that the number one, ground zero for the virus, was a lab technician in Wuhan. Either way, doesn't matter how it got out of this, or more than likely got out of this level 4 World Health Organization biolab. And it's bioweapons that they're controlling. They say they're looking for vaccines for bioweapons. Well, if you're looking for a vaccine for a bioweapon, you've got to have the weapon to start with. Let's logically, we got to look at this. So it started in Wuhan in China. The Chinese government, I think, were very slow in letting us know what was going on. I think they call it propaganda cover-up, but it's just PR as far as I'm concerned. Good PR for the Chinese, bad for the rest of us. So, they've let this virus go, or it's got out, and it's affected Wuhan. This was back in December. People are flying backwards and forwards and going around the world. This thing has infected the whole of the world. All the major countries in the world. Everybody's on lockdown. Australia, Britain here, America, Canada, Sweden, Finland, the whole of Europe, Russia. It has affected everybody. And they say, oh, we're going to find a vaccine. Well, if this Wuhan laboratory hasn't found a vaccine in the years that they've been working on it, how are we going to find a vaccine? They said that they've found something in a monkey virus. Now, I told you earlier that it looks as if the COVID-19, which is SARS-CoV-2, which is linked to SARS, which is linked to Mars, which is linked to HIV. A lab technician, one of my customers was a lab technician, and he said that the HIV virus is very much like hepatitis B. Very, very similar. Could it be that man in a laboratory manipulated hepatitis B to become HIV? And is it possible that in laboratories man manipulated HIV to become Mars, to become SARS, to become COVID-19? I pose the question. I've got no specific proof. I believe the answer would be yes. But I can't definitively say that. That's why I put the caveat on it. You know, we have got to be very, very vigilant. Well, yeah, fair enough. Now we got to keep our distances. And they talk about wearing masks, so it's not going to do any good. Oh, we got to keep the masks for nurses and doctors. Yes, nurses and doctors do need to wear face masks. I agree with that. But if we're going to be able to go out and continue our lives, Yes, there's still going to have to be some sort of distancing, but everybody should be wearing masks. And if you wear a mask, it doesn't stop you getting the virus. If you've got the virus, it stops you infecting somebody else. I was involved with the St. John's ambulance for years. My mother was a St. John's ambulance nurse. The reason I was told we wore masks, and my understanding of it, was so that you didn't give a disease, a cold, cough, flu, to a patient. That's why you wear a mask, so you don't give it. Not necessarily so you stop getting it in. So, wearing a mask, I think, is important. I think the BBC and the national press have been following the government guidelines. I do not trust the medical professionals that are advising the government. They're taking the advice from the World Trade Organization. The World Trade Organization, when we first got the virus in the UK, said, oh, it's better if we carry on our normal lives, people will get infected, and then we will have herd immunity. Remember that? Herd immunity. My conclusion with that advice now, looking back on it in hindsight, is that there are people in power and people who are medical professionals advising the government that are willing to see people catch the virus, suffer from it, and die. Yes. There is a group of people who are quite willing to allow the population to be killed. I know that comes hard to believe. But what other conclusion can you come to when we've seen what's happened in South Korea? That they self-distance and wear masks, and they've got the lowest rate of any country. Proved positive, I would say. You know, so why would the medical profession, because they've got to know that COVID-19 is SARS-CoV-2, and they've got to know that it's linked to Mars and SARS and HIV. They've got to know that science because there's a scientific paper on it that was produced. I've got a copy of it. And the difference between the SARS virus and COVID-19 is 4 RNA letters. In the sequence of RNA, there are 4 letters that have been added. Exactly what they do, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. But in the string of letters that it's got 4 extra letters added to it, which I believe was done in America. And then the virus is shipped to China, to Wuhan. Now, we've got to do some serious thinking, and we've got to do some serious talking. You know, we talk about the Trump treatment. You know, let's not go into Trump and, you know, disinfect and whatever. He who has not said something bloody stupid in the past cast the first stone. So that's that out of the way. We all say things that are stupid. I do. And think, oh, wish I hadn't have said that. Now, I believe that there are a group of people in power who are quite willing to see people die. COVID-19 has played straight into their hands. The WTO advice was for this huge herd immunity. Now, why would you allow everybody to get infected knowing that in China the death rate is 2 to 3%? So they're willing to let 2 to 3% of the population that catch COVID-19 die. They've got a mentality that the only way to save the planet is to reduce the population. This SARS, COVID-2, COVID-19 plays straight into their hands. When this is all over, we got to root them out and get rid of them. And the only way we can do this is by leaving the EU, get them off our backs, be an independent country, and sort things out for ourselves. I want to get back to work. I want everybody else to get back to work. I want to get back to normal. But in the meantime, you know, I've told you what I know. I've got the facts to back it up. You know, be vigilant. Don't believe all you see on the, you know, mainstream media. You know, and obviously, don't believe all you see on YouTube. You know, there is a lot of disinformation out there. But the information that I have is from the best sources I can find. I was a director for 4 years of a medical charity. And I was dealing, I'm not a doctor, I'm not medically trained, opposed. But I was dealing with doctors from America and Italy. And we would treat kids with learning difficulties. Now, they are telling me that we should be using the Trump treatment. You know, the HCQs, which is the quinine-based treatment. Also, you should add zinc to this and the CPAC. CPAC is the oxygen into your lungs under pressure. Now, why are we not using it in this country? I wrote to my MP, who happens to be a doctor, GP. He was a GP in the village here. I wrote to him and said, why can't we use HCQs for treatment for COVID-19? He wrote back and said that it was not licensed for COVID-19. So NICE haven't licensed it, therefore the doctors can't prescribe it. So we may have a treatment that works, and the doctors and the medical profession at the top are giving the advice to doctors. They're not giving a treatment that may work. If you have HCQs, which is the malaria tablet, it's not going to do you any harm. You know, I'll go on about effects of it later in a minute. I got a good story on that one. But why don't they want to give you a effective treatment? I'm not saying it's a cure, it's a treatment. And then your body, it helps your body fight the virus. Because they want you to die. They are willing to see people die and not use an effective treatment. That's the only conclusion that I can come to. Now, one of the reports is saying, oh, there's side effects with HCQs, which is the quinine-based treatment, the Trump treatment. It affects your kidneys. Now, I got something for you now. My mother has a kidney problem. She's 84, so she's trying to manage her intake. She's got a food diet, and the advice from the doctor, the surgeon, drink tonic water. You know, tonic water that you put with gin and tonic. Why do you have gin and tonic? The tonic contains quinine. Quinine helps the kidneys. So, all this idea that this HCQ with quinine in it will affect your kidneys is fake news on the mainstream media. My mother is taking tonic water. She drinks tonic water as a drink, and it is helping her kidneys. So there's a lot of, sorry about this, but bullshit out there. And we're being fed bullshit, but we're not mushrooms. You know, we're not in the dark anymore. We can see what's happening. Anyway, this is Somerset News Network signing off, stay safe. And if you're going to go out, my advice is wear a mask. Goodbye.